Hello everyone, and welcome to the return of Anime Villainous how-to videos. As expected, I'm Chaos in the Sky, and today we'll be kicking off the how-tos for the Human Resources expansion. The first villain we'll be looking at is Oculus from Death Parade, so let's take a look at how to play as him in Anime Villainous. Oculus is the creator of the arbitration system, which is used to judge people who've died and determine if they deserve reincarnation or to be sent to the void. As the man considered closest to God, Oculus is the highest ranked in the world of arbiters, and ensures that the system continues to run smoothly, alongside his manager Nona. Oculus believes that humans cannot judge other humans, and therefore that arbiters cannot have human emotions, as it would interfere with their judgments. Nona, however, thinks differently, and believes a new form of arbitration using human emotion should be explored. Finding this concept antithesis to his own ideals, Oculus does what he must to keep his arbitration system as he believes it should be, no matter what he must do. Oculus seeks to ensure that the arbitration system remains as it always has. However, Nona has begun experimenting in other ways of undergoing arbitration, ways that Oculus doesn't approve of. To keep Nona in line and the arbitration system running as he intended, Oculus has to show Nona that his way is right by completing arbitrations properly. In Anime Villainous, this objective is represented by Oculus having to increase Nona's strength to 4. How he does this involves a combination of his ally Nona, another ally Decim, and his unique gameplay mechanic, the Roulette pile. So to make sure we understand how exactly Oculus achieves his objective, let's cover those 3 crucial attributes. First, we'll talk about the Roulette pile. The way cards end up in the Roulette pile are varied. Oculus has many villain cards that can do it, and there are many cards in the Fate deck that can add to it as well. We'll be covering all the cards that do so in this video, so for now, you just need to know that villain cards end up in the Roulette pile through various means. No Fate card ever does, just villain cards. Also keep in mind that the Roulette pile is public information, just like the discard pile. You and your opponent can look through it at any time. Speaking of villain cards, there's another important part of the Roulette pile that relates to them which we'll need to look at. Luckily for us, Nona and Decim when put side by side show this mechanic. As you can see by looking at the bottom right corner of both Nona and Decim, they each have a unique mask, similar to the hand signs that Orochimaru uses. The mask seen on Nona is called the Oni mask, while the mask on Decim is the No mask. These are the only 2 masks in Oculus's deck, and each card has either one or the other. There's also an even split of them, a total of 15 Oni masks and 15 No masks. The reason why this is important is because of Nona's ability. Nona's ability is that once per turn, when you reveal 3 cards from the Roulette pile with the same mask, Nona gains 1 strength. You have to get her to 4 strength, so you'll need to trigger her ability 4 times. This means you'll want to fill the Roulette pile with cards that have the same mask, while your opponent will want to use the Fate deck to add more of whichever mask there is less of. While Nona's ability is how she actually gains the strength, we still need to reveal 3 cards from the Roulette pile to trigger it. That's done with Decim. Decim is an ally that attaches to Oculus's rightmost location, Quin Decim. This means that you cannot move Decim from this location. Once he's in play, you can activate Decim to shuffle the Roulette pile and then reveal up to 3 random cards from it. When you reveal 3 cards, if they have matching masks and Nona is in your territory, she gains 1 strength, getting you 1/4 closer to your objective. If the 3 cards don't match, however, then Nona gains no strength, and you'll have to try again. Revealing the cards isn't all Decim does, however. Once you've revealed cards from the Roulette pile using Decim, you put all but 1 card back into the pile. You then get to play that remaining card for free, making Decim a good way to use cards that you or your opponent have put into the roulette. This is also one of your best ways to get cards out of the Roulette pile, to try and narrow the roulette down to just 1 type of mask for Nona's ability. Also notice that Decim doesn't have to reveal 3 cards. If you only have 1 or 2 cards in the roulette that you really want to play by activating Decim, you can choose to reveal just 1 or 2 with his ability if you need to. But also keep in mind that Nona will only gain strength if 3 cards are revealed and they all match. That's your true goal to progress as Oculus. Now, with Nona, Decim, and the Roulette pile explained, the next thing we're going to look at are the other 3 activatable cards in Oculus's deck. Those cards are another ally, Ginty, Oculus's only item, the Waking Tree, and Oculus's only form, Unfurled Lotus. Along with Decim, these are the only 4 cards that Oculus can activate. I will also point out that there are 2 copies of Unfurled Lotus, which means 5 cards in the villain deck total. Firstly, we'll look at Ginty, who, like Decim, attaches to a location. In this case, that location is Viginti, which is Oculus's middle right location. When you activate Ginty, you get to perform a Vanquish action where you don't discard allies that are unattached. This means if you use Decim or Ginty himself with Ginty's ability, they will be discarded, but any other allies are not. This can combo especially well with Nona once you get her strength higher, and it's a good option to speed through Showdown once you've reached it, and you no longer mind to lose Decim or Ginty. After Ginty, we have the last location attacher, which is a new term that I've just coined, the Waking Tree. The Waking Tree attaches to Nona Ginta, the middle left location of Oculus's territory. When you activate Waking Tree, you get to choose one card in your discard pile, and then put it into the Roulette pile. This is one of your best options for getting cards you want into the Roulette, letting you set it up with the mask you want, as well as get back cards you want to play. Finally, our last activatable card is Unfurled Lotus, Oculus's only form in the deck, and our first activatable form. When you activate Unfurled Lotus, you put either an ally at your location or Unfurled Lotus itself into the Roulette pile. After that, you get to perform one available non-fate action at a location other than Oculus's. This form not only lets you get more cards you want into the Roulette pile, it also lets you get added benefit from other actions in your territory. This can be especially helpful to get more power, perform an extra activate depending on where you are when using Unfurled Lotus, or get some extra movement with a move an item or ally action. It's also helpful to be able to put allies specifically into the Roulette pile. We'll see very soon that some of Oculus's allies have on-play abilities, which means putting them into the Roulette pile to then be able to play them again later will be a big asset to Oculus. So, that covers all the cards that Oculus can activate, and now's about the time in the video where you may have noticed, wait, did Chaos ever explain Oculus's ability to us? Isn't that usually one of the first things brought up in the how-to videos? You're correct, convenient straw man that I just made up. It is normally one of the first things we go over, but instead we're going to go over it now, because understanding Oculus's ability to its fullest requires looking at the territory as a whole alongside Nona, Waking Tree, Ginty, and Decim. Oculus's ability is that once per turn, you may move Nona to the back room to activate a card at Nona's previous location. For example, let's say that you have Nona and Decim both at Quindecim. On your turn, you can move Nona to the back room, and then activate Decim's ability as a result. If you want to use Nona for Decim again, however, you'll then have to move her all the way back over to Quindecim. You can use Nona the same way with Waking Tree or Ginty, and she'll always end up at the back room as a result. Activating is very important to Oculus, since he must activate Decim to raise Nona's strength and complete his objective, as well as Waking Tree and Ginty having very useful activate abilities. This ability becomes even more crucial when you notice that Oculus only has one activate action, and that's on the top row at the back room, meaning it can be covered by heroes. This means you'll be looking to Oculus's villain ability a lot to activate your 3 location attachers. With Oculus's villain ability done, now we can get back to his villain deck. Next, we're going to go over the rest of Oculus's allies, all of whom do not attach to specific locations. First, we have Quinn and Castra, the allies that help you deal with heroes. Castra is a very unique one, as her ability makes it where if you perform a Vanquish action to defeat a hero at Castra's location, you may use allies at any locations in the Vanquish. This lets you protect whatever location you put Castra at a lot more effectively than any other. For Oculus, this can be especially helpful to defend his top activate, as it's the only activate he has. Much like Castra, Quinn's ability is locational as well. Any heroes at Quinn's location get -1 strength, making them just a bit weaker and thus easier to deal with. That -1 can be crucial in allowing Oculus to clash with a hero, or bring a hero into range of weaker allies. Our next 2 allies are Clavis and Mimine, who mostly help with activating cards. Mimine is very straightforward. When you play her, you may activate an ally or item at Mimine's location. Given how much Oculus wants to activate despite having just the one activate action, Mimine is a great asset to him. Clavis, meanwhile, has a more roundabout way of helping Oculus with activations. When Clavis is played, you may move an unattached ally at Clavis's location to any location. With this ability, you can move Nona from the back room to another location, most notably Quindecim, letting you use your villain ability with Nona right after. You can also use Clavis on another ally if you need them positioned for a Vanquish or something similar, but you'll most likely want to save his ability for Nona. The last ally in Oculus's deck are Arbiters. When an Arbiter is played, you get to look at the top 3 cards of your deck. Then, you can discard any number of them and return the rest to the top in whatever order you please. This helps Oculus get through his deck quicker, as he needs to find Nona and Decim ASAP, and also gives you some allies to use for Vanquishes or to target with Unfurled Lotus. With all the allies, items, and forms out of the way, let's take a look at Oculus's mini effects. There are 8 of them, 4 of which have 2 copies with both types of masks, and then 4 with just 1 copy and thus only 1 mask type. We'll look at the 4 double copies first. Firstly, we have Twister, perhaps the most evil of Oculus's party games. With Twister, you get to move an unattached ally to an adjacent location. On top of that, if there's a hero at that ally's new location, you can have the hero lose 1 strength. This is a great option to both weaken heroes, and more importantly, get more movement for Nona to make use of Oculus's villain ability. Following Twister, we have Battle of Life, a 0-cost card that lets you perform a Vanquish action. You may have noticed when seeing his territory earlier, but Oculus has no Vanquish actions on his board, so this is very important for him. Also important to note is that this card is a May, like many of Oculus's effects. Seeing a U May on this and any of Oculus's other cards is important because it means even if you can't make use of their ability, if you pull them from the Roulette with Deckham, you can still play them to get them out of the Roulette pile. Speaking of getting cards out of the Roulette pile, next we have Billiards. When played, Billiards lets you choose a card from the Roulette pile. You either get to discard that card, or you can pay its cost and play it. This is very important when you want a specific card out of the Roulette. As Oculus, you only want 1 type of mask in the Roulette for Nona's ability, and Billiards is a great way to accomplish that. It can also be vital when there's a card in the Roulette pile you desperately want to play, as it lets you choose the card, instead of having to rely on the luck of Deckham pulling the card with his ability. Now we have Mind Read, a card that lets you activate either your form or a card at your location. This is the only card aside from Me-Mine that lets Oculus perform activate actions, and thus, it's very useful. It's also the only way to activate Unfurled Lotus outside of your 1 activate action, since Me-Mine can't activate Unfurled Lotus, nor can you use Oculus's default ability when Unfurled Lotus is in play. With those 4 effects covered, let's move on to the final 4 effects. All of these just have 1 copy each, and thus only 1 type of mask. First up is Bowling, which lets you choose an item, form, or scheme from your deck or discard pile, pay its cost, and then play it. This can be a big help to Oculus if Waking Tree happened to shuffle low in your deck, or to get a scheme or Unfurled Lotus when you need them most. Similar to Bowling, we also have Darts, because Oculus wants to make sure everyone has fun at his Friday night parties. Darts has the same ability as Bowling, except that it lets you choose just an ally from your deck or discard, pay their cost, and then play them. This is a big deal for Oculus since he needs to get both Nona and Deckham in play to start making progress. Plus, if you happen to get Nona and Deckham before Darts, you can instead use it for some other allies, like Me-Mine or Clavis. Our other 2 effects are Air Hockey and Old Maid. Air Hockey lets you defeat a hero so long as that hero is at your location, no matter that hero's strength. Old Maid, meanwhile, lets you move a hero to any location, even if that hero isn't at your current location, potentially into some waiting allies or even a clash from Oculus himself. Air Hockey and Old Maid will be a big help to keeping your territory under control, while Darts and Bowling will help you get cards you need faster if they're in your discard, or at the bottom of your deck. The final 2 cards in Oculus's deck are his 2 schemes, Arbitration Rules and Extreme Conditions. Arbitration Rules is a scheme that triggers when the targeted player moves to a location that has another character. Remember that in Anime Villainous, a character is anything that has a strength value. Once triggered, Arbitration Rules lets Oculus choose a card in his deck and put it into the Roulette pile, then shuffling his deck. Extreme Conditions, meanwhile, is a scheme that triggers whenever the targeted player defeats a hero. This scheme is a little unique compared to most others, as once it's triggered, the player that triggered it has to choose a hero in Oculus's territory. Whatever hero they choose then loses strength until they have 0, making them easy prey for a Vanquish or a Clash. We've now gotten through all of Oculus's villain deck, so of course we must now cover the Fate deck. Many of these Fate cards will be putting things that you don't want into the Roulette pile, making it harder to get 3 matching masks. Oculus's Fate deck also has a whopping 11 heroes in it, the most of any Anime Villainous character thus far. So before we start going through all of them, let's take a look at the only effect and item waiting in the Fate deck. Those 2 cards are Human Emotions, the effect, and Mistake, the item. First, we'll look at Human Emotions, which lets the one playing it look at the top 5 cards of Oculus's deck. That player then gets to put any of those 5 cards into the Roulette pile so long as they have a cost of 2 or less. The rest of the cards that aren't put into the Roulette are shuffled back into Oculus's deck. You may be wondering why this card specifies only cards with a cost of 2 or less, and the reason is because it prevents Nona or Deckham from being put into the Roulette pile. They are the only cards Oculus has that do not cost 2 or less, and they're the only 2 cards truly integral to Oculus's objective, so they can only ever be put into the Roulette pile if Oculus himself does it. Moving on from the only effect to the only item, Mistake is a card that you attach to Oculus. When Oculus would activate a card, he instead discards Mistake. We've already talked about how much Oculus cares about getting to activate, given he only has one activate action, and he has to be moving Nona for his ability to activate repeatedly. So Mistake can be a major speed bump for him. Now it's time we begin on Oculus's mini heroes. First, we have Takashi and Michiko, whose abilities actually relate to the other two cards we just covered. When Takashi is played, the one playing him may choose an effect from Oculus's Fate deck or Fate discard and play it, then shuffle Oculus's Fate deck. The only effect, as we've covered, is Human Emotions. So this means if Takashi is played, then so will Human Emotions be played. Michiko is the same way, except when she's played, the one who played her may find and play Mistake. There is only one copy of Mistake, so luckily if it's already in play, Michiko can't add another one. But she can bring Mistake back when it's already passed, or get it out early if it's at the bottom of the Fate deck. After Takashi and Michiko, we have Shigeru and Mai. When Shigeru is played, the one playing him may discard a hero from Oculus's territory, then play that hero to their previous location. This basically just means that it reuses the ability of the targeted hero, as well as removes any -1 strength tokens from them. When Mai is played, the one playing her may discard Mai to then choose a hero from Oculus's Fate discard pile and play them. This essentially means that Mai lets any hero in the discard pile get played instead of her, and at worst, if there are no heroes in the discard pile, she's just a 2-strength hero that covers a location. Those are all the 2-strength heroes in Oculus's Fate deck, so now we're on to the 3-strength heroes, starting with Misaki and Yosuke. When Misaki is played, the one playing her may choose an effect from Oculus's deck and put it into the roulette pile. Anytime your opponent can put in a mask you don't want is troublesome, and even more so if it's an effect you wanted in your hand, rather than having to try and play it from the roulette. Yosuke's ability is a little more unique, and dependent on what is already in the roulette. When played, your opponent gets to choose a card from Oculus's deck or discard pile with the same name as a card already in the roulette, and then put it into the roulette pile as well. This ability can only hit specific cards, but any card that has 2 copies has one for each mask, which means it's guaranteed to cause a clash of an Oni and a No mask when you only want one type of mask to be in the roulette. Next we have Mayu and Harada. Mayu is different from every other card in the Fate deck that interacts with the roulette pile, because she actually takes cards out of it. When she's played, the one playing her gets to choose up to 2 cards from the roulette pile and shuffle them into Oculus's deck. This can take away cards Oculus was hoping to play soon, and make him dig for them, as well as throw off the balance of how many masks Oculus wants that are in the roulette. Harada, however, follows the usual style and lets the one playing him choose up to 3 cards with a cost of 2 or less from Oculus's discard pile and put them into the roulette. As always, this is disruptive for Oculus, since it likely means masks that don't match what he wants are being put in. That makes 8 of the 11 heroes, so our next 2 will be the 4 strengths, Tatsumi and Shimada. When Tatsumi is played, the one playing him may shuffle Oculus's discard pile back into his deck. This hurts because it slows down Oculus's search if he still needs to find Nona or Decim, and it also makes it harder for Waking Tree to put cards Oculus wants into the roulette. As for Shimada, when he's played, the opponent may find the black-haired woman and put it on top of Oculus's Fate deck. The black-haired woman is Oculus's challenge, so as you can imagine, he doesn't like to see it come up. We'll go over that in just a second, but first, we have one last hero to look at. Yamura is the final hero in Oculus's Fate deck, and she's the only one with 1 strength. When she's played, Oculus must reveal his hand. The one playing Yamura then gets to choose up to 2 cards with a cost of 2 or less from Oculus's hand, and put them both into the roulette pile. As always, this will likely mess around with the amount of masks Oculus wants, and also potentially cause him trouble for his next turn, as he'll likely be with a 2-card hand. Last, but most certainly not least, we have Oculus's challenge, the black-haired woman. When this challenge is in play, Oculus cannot activate Decim, which means he can make no objective progress as he cannot have arbitrations go through. To discard the black-haired woman, you must have Nona at Quindecim, and then you can choose to move her straight to the back room. There's nothing Oculus loves more than getting Nona to Quindecim to then use his ability to have her activate Decim, so having to use that positioning to discard his challenge instead is a major annoyance. Even worse is that if Nona isn't already in position, Oculus has to move her all the way over there before he can start activating Decim with any other cards. With that, we've covered everything needed for you to know how to play as Oculus. A crafty, conniving man who stands at the top of the arbitration system. Oculus will do whatever he deems necessary to keep arbitration running smoothly, which will require you to manipulate his roulette pile effectively while dealing with the many lost souls that show up to be judged. If you have any questions about Oculus, feel free to leave a comment and I'll do my best to answer. Also, look at the description for the playlist to see all the other Anime Villainous how-to videos so you can learn about any other characters that interest you. Thank you for watching this video, and I hope to see you again for more Anime Villainous videos in the future. Until then, farewell.